Sorry, we're just getting logged in for the demo portion. So we're ready to go. All right, well, thanks for coming, you guys. We're pretty excited about launching this knowledge management, knowledge application in ServiceNow, and we're making really good progress. So we'll just get started here. So our agenda, we're going to go over kind of basics of what knowledge management is, what our goals for knowledge management are. We're going to review, do a little review of the knowledge bases that we have. And then we'll talk about article authoring, and then at the very end, we'll check in on where we're at for our IT help launch on the 22nd and where we're going next. All right. Anybody have any idea what knowledge management is? Funny because I used to be a knowledge specialist. I tell people what I do for a living, and they'd say, "What is knowledge specialist? What's knowledge management?" Anybody have any ideas what that might entail?
You manage the thoughts in my head.
That's a pretty good definition.
I would call that knowledge, but
We only have an hour.
I've had an entire lifetime.
I always think about it in terms of my wife tells me what she knows I need to know.
There you go. There is that.
Nothing more.
That's your knowledge management.
She's my knowledge.
She's doing the knowledge management for you.
Right.
Know things.
Yeah, I say that too sometimes. All right, so the official definition, at least ServiceNow's definition of knowledge management, is it's the process of managing documentation, maintenance, storage, and sharing of knowledge in an organization. So that kind of takes us into what is the key objective here, because there's a lot to pick apart in that. But basically, we're providing a process to document important information like policies, procedures, how-tos, through the use of knowledge bases, knowledge articles, and some categorization. So there's kind of different types of knowledge, right? There's knowledge that we're going to share with our business partners to make their jobs easier, and in turn, our jobs easier. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's knowledge that we all share as a department, so that we can help each other be more successful, and in turn help our business partners be more successful. And then there's also sorry, I lost my train of thought. Thank you. Internal team knowledge. So that's the things that we're going to share in our smaller teams that will help us be more successful as.
And then Melissa's knowledge. Right?
Yes. When I lose my train of thought, Stacey's got my back. So this is just a graphic that ServiceNow puts out about kind of the high level knowledge management process. So we started up at the top, defining our requirements and configuring the knowledge application in ServiceNow. That piece is mostly done. We're still doing a little bit of configuration, but we're pretty much there. And we'll continue to tweak that configuration as we move forward in this journey. So that might never be completely done. And then we're going to create and publish knowledge. We're kind of in the midst of that right now. And then once we have a knowledge base or knowledge bases populated with content, we're going to search and leverage and update that knowledge. Hopefully in real time as we solve problems. We're going to document what we're doing so that other people can access it and use it. And then there'll also be a review and audit process. So we want to make sure that our knowledge stays up to date and relevant. So if we have products that get sunsetted, then we want to get rid of that knowledge so that we don't have a bunch of clutter taking up space. And it'll make it easier for definitely our business partners to find the information they need. And then kind of going up off that is refining knowledge, which is pretty much what I just talked about, making sure we're keeping things fresh. And then over to the right is the improved knowledge management. So that's more like not the articles themselves, but the process of knowledge management. So making sure that, there's a lot that goes into it from end to end, and we're not going to get it all right out of the box, right? We're gonna start small and then we're gonna grow it as we get better. All right. Oh, I was supposed to ask this. My apologies, I gave you the first answer. So goals of knowledge management. What are our goals in knowledge management? Yeah.
Decrease incidence.
So maybe I'll ask a different question since I messed that up. So if we're gonna decrease incidents, what benefit is decreasing incidents gonna give us? Maybe start as an IT team. How does that benefit us to decrease incidents?
We'll have time to do other things, work on other projects.
Yep. And then maybe from our business partners' perspective, how does decreasing incidents
It
affect them?
increases their confidence in what we support.
Increases their productivity. Allows them to solve their own issues.
Self-sufficient.
Yeah. So we're gonna provide the business with self-service resolution steps for those frequent issues, the things that come up all the time, which is gonna do all the things you guys mentioned about saving us time so that we can do more exciting things than solve the same problem 10 times in a week.
We get really good at it.
That's true, but now we can be even better, right? All right. Anybody have an idea? So I'll give you a hint there. There's 2 more goals that we're gonna talk about. So anybody else have any ideas what the next goal?
Level, right? So at the same
Yes.
level as decrease incidents.
Yes. And it's okay if you guys don't know.
Resolve incidents faster.
Advice for the,
I would agree.
Yep.
Should we get all the information needed when someone does a ticket?
First call resolution.
Yes, I think you're pretty much right on it. Yeah, so we're gonna increase our first call resolution so that our users are waiting less time to get their problem solved. And kind of going back to that first one is if they don't have to submit an incident at all and they can solve their own problem, even better, right? Takes less time from us, less time from them. They can move on with their day. So this also is kind of tied into our IT staff knowledge base as well, because we're going to be providing each other with information, right? And that is going to affect the service desk a lot, because if we can provide information to them so that they can resolve issues at that first level, then we won't have to escalate issues.
something I'll say, I'll add to what Melissa just said there is, as you think about this particular goal of knowledge management, think about the tickets that the service desk escalates to you. And what information can you put in an article in IT staff that will allow the service desk to resolve those? Not just that's a goal, but what things can you think of off the top of your head today that you could write a quick article on that we can get into IT staff and can help the service desk resolve those issues? I know there's some out there, at least, and maybe it's not just information, but maybe it's information and some access to an application. I'm just thinking on the lines of SharePoint, right? How can we, how can the service desk resolve those issues where users can't share, even though, right? There's a lot of those go to you now, Mark Franklin. Is there something the service desk could do to resolve that doesn't take time?
Feel like you were speaking right to me.
I think it was pretty clear. I knew she wasn't talking to me.
So that, from my perspective, that's one that I can think of off the top of my head. Hey, from a service desk perspective, hey, Mark, give us that information so we don't have to bother you, and we can resolve the user's issue right away. It's just a quick one. It's an easy one. We get it. We were getting it a lot. I don't know that we're so much in, but it's just some example.
Well, something that kind of bleeds across the two is having consistent knowledge and a consistent access to knowledge. As we take the calls, we know where to go. So we have the confidence that we're getting the right information, knowledge. But from the business side, they become the muscle memory of calling and expecting the same results. If it's this, I go here. Oh, look, this and this and this, I can go here as well, as opposed to. So it helps streamline the cycle.
Yep.
And also
Absolutely.
help to steer our business partners to the portal more
Yes.
versus calling or sending an email.
Which gets back to the confidence of the information, of the knowledge.
Full circle.
It is. All right, last one. Anybody have any idea what the last goal is?
Helps customers at off hours. I mean, so if it's not during the workday, they're working at home, having issues. They can maybe help themselves and not wait the next day because everybody's working at all different locations and
Yeah.
getting better enhanced knowledge for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's the right one.
So it kind of is, right? So we're going to drive efficiencies in support for all of our IT services. So this is, making sure that our support documentation is up to date for processes, known issues. It kind of goes back to what Stacy was saying about the first call resolution is if we have things documented, then we don't have to constantly be going to each other, asking the same questions. I don't go to Mark Franklin and ask a question, and then 5 minutes later, Travis goes and asks him the same question, right? Those are the kinds of things that we do to increase our efficiency as a department. And then also efficient support transition when a tech lead's on vacation, right? So that kind of applies to everybody though, right? So even on the service desk side, if someone's out of the office for the day or a week, all those all those tickets don't have to wait for the right person, right? Because we have everything documented. Someone else can pick it up in the.
And I won't pick on you, Mark. Let's pick on Nancy, right? So Nancy takes care of the storage primarily, right? So there's a process when Nancy gets a request to add space to a drive or do something with the storage. Nancy has a process that she uses to do that. And I think Brian, you back her up on that. And so when Nancy's not here, Brian has got to go, what was that process again? Now he can just go to that article that Nancy wrote in the infrastructure knowledge base and there it is, bang, 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 done quick. 5 minutes instead of maybe 20 minutes. I think you're better than that, right, Brian? It'd probably take you 6 minutes, but for me, for something that I support back up, I don't always remember exactly how to do those things. So it would be great to have those articles that you can go to and just take care of whatever it is that the tech lead would normally do. Yeah. See, it wasn't just you, Mark.
I think often that is actually a barrier to knowledge management. In my experience doing this for many, many years, a lot of times organizations, especially ones that have long tenured employees, which we have a lot of those, they gather all this tribal knowledge, right? Where they know a lot of things just because they've been around for a long time and they've seen everything, right? But then those of us come in new, we don't know all those things. And if all that knowledge stays in their head, then new people coming in never get to learn how to do things. And if they leave, whether they're retiring after a long career or they move on to a new opportunity, all that knowledge goes with them. And so having these articles gives us the ability to document all of our processes and known issues so that knowledge doesn't get stuck in someone's head.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So if you already have documentation, are we moving it from our current location into the knowledge management? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I would say that would be the goal. There's obviously going to be things that maybe aren't appropriate for that. So we'll have to evaluate those at that time. We have some user guides, for instance, that are 30 pages long. How do you make that a knowledge article? And we'll talk a little bit more later about how to evaluate your content for knowledge-based articles. But, a 30-page user guide, we're not going to put that in a knowledge article, right? Maybe the right thing to do is to link out to that document from a knowledge article. maybe the right thing to do is to break that 30-page document into, you know, 50 knowledge articles, right? So those are things we'll just have to kind of learn as they come up.
Those are things that the knowledge manager for each team gonna be asked to kind of look at and work team individually. I'm assuming, Nancy, you're talking about your structure, processes and procedures.
Right, because I
Document.
document a lot myself, but
1 or 2 pages documents.
Yeah, those are great opportunities to just move into ServiceNow, but there's got to be a commitment from your team and your group to say, yes, we're gonna do everything here, or we're gonna do everything here, right? So I think that's a discussion. My suggestion is ServiceNow, because it's so easy to track. Everybody knows exactly where to go. It's one spot. When you're working on an issue, you can see articles that may apply.
And I think EA is in that boat too, right? We have this OneNote notebook that is packed with all kinds of information. And as a new employee coming in, it was difficult, and it still is oftentimes really difficult for me to sort through that information
Don't touch my OneNote.
to find what I'm looking for, right? And there are things that are appropriate to keep in a OneNote notebook, and then there are things that would be better utilized in a knowledge base article. So it's not a one size fits all solution.
We in the service desk, we're in the same boat. We have a massive OneNote notebook that we have everything. Directive I've given to managers. Now, there's things that we may continue to keep that don't belong in a knowledge article that we'll continue to use the OneNote said, but we're moving our stuff into ServiceNow.
Just for the record, I don't disagree with you whatsoever. OneNote had nothing. This was the best place to leverage. It tends to be, it tends to be volatile information, like I'm working on a project or I'm working on something, and that's the purpose for it. It's transient. But then it starts to become, oh, this is now final documentation, all the support documentation for Yard.
Yep.
All of that stuff should spin off and be in ServiceNow, just so it's easier to reference.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, keep in mind, knowledge management it's a big culture change for an organization. You don't just walk in one day and say, we're going to do knowledge management and everybody's on board and we're doing it perfect, right? It's a journey. We're going to continue to learn new things about how to manage knowledge at the port, not, you know, looking at other organizations and how they do it necessarily. We have to figure out for ourselves what works best.
Here's this unformed thought, and this is something that I need to talk to Stacy about, and probably you at some point, is, so there's knowledge in ServiceNow. There's Azure DevOps that we use we're going to be using it for a lot of things. We have documentation and tasks that are done. And we have standard changes. Where should this information go? If we've got to document it in one system and we have to put it in another system, that starts to show redundancy. So how do we, I don't care where, as long as it makes sense and it's efficient. If it's redundant, I'm putting it in one and the other, that's where I'm going to start pushing back. Trying to be clear on how this is all going to work together is really important for us in EA especially.
Yep, I agree. And a really important note about what you just said is a lot of times when, in my experience, when I've implemented knowledge at a company, you know, they already have stuff documented in probably multiple places. And then you ask them to move things to knowledge, and you get into that situation where you have stuff documented in multiple places. And that's why, you know, it's important to have a strategy around knowledge management to make sure that we're all on the same page about where we're going to store knowledge and what kind of knowledge goes there and what goes over here and there. Because pretty soon, if you don't have that strategy, that high level strategy agreement, that you end up with a knowledge article that talks about how to do something, a document on SharePoint that talks about how to do it, and those two things are not in sync. And pretty soon your users are really confused about how to do something because maybe the SharePoint document got updated, but the knowledge article didn't. So those are the things we just need to be aware of as we're moving through this.
I'm sure you're going to talk about this later on, Melissa, but and so we can get to it then. But version control, I think, is really important. I hear it, frequently, regularly that the documentation's there, but it's out of date. So I think that would be one of the goals and benefits as well. But I just want to make sure that's somewhere in this presentation too.
Yes, we will talk about version control for sure a little bit later.
All about identifying the system of record, right? It's like Active
Yep.
Directory. Active Directory is the system of record for. And we struggle with this with HR. What's the system of record for who the manager is, right? It would be nice if we had an HR system where HR maintained who reports to who and all of that, and then it was just updated in Active Directory. And I think with our new, in the future, HR system, that'll be something that, but if we can identify a system of record for whatever it is, it may be different. Azure DevOps, it may be in Azure DevOps with a reference from ServiceNow to that. I think that's the key.
Yeah, this really came up when we were talking about standard changes. We're documenting in code what happens and what those changes were when we check that code in. Then we have to go to ServiceNow and enter it in there as well. It's now I'm starting to get into redundancies. How do we pull those two together? And it may just be unique to EA because of the code base and DevOps, but still, perspective's still there.
I wanted to comment, I thought, Melissa, your word on, this is a journey. And I think for the team, we need to think of the journey kind of in the order of these bullet points. First, these incidents submitted. So we got to get some frequently known issues that our end users can self-serve. We got to increase, number 2, the first call resolution. And then we have to be very strategic on point 3. We say drive efficient support for all services. I think we kind of got to take that in chunks.
Yes.
So, and I don't know what that should be, but that the project team and the knowledge managers need to figure out. We don't need to migrate every OneNote, all of it together at one time. We got to kind of work our way through.
Absolutely.
Is there a difference between like public documents that everybody sees and what specific teams see?
Yes.
There might be sensitive information that we don't want to share with the average user, but we want to share within our team and or the service desk.
I think there's, maybe it's next.
We'll talk
Yeah,
about
it is
that.
next. All right. I wasn't sure if there was one
Good
slide
segue,
before.
Brian.
Great segue. So let's do a quick review of the knowledge bases that we currently have. So we've got IT help, and this is viewable to all of our business partners. So everybody in the organization has access to this. So this is where all of our self-service issue resolution type things will go. And then we all have access to create and edit articles in that knowledge base. This is our focus right now, right? Is getting this knowledge base live so we can start to decrease our incidents submitted. And then in this knowledge base, all the articles will go through an approval process. So nothing will get published until it's had, a bunch of eyes on it. But specifically, we need 3 knowledge managers to approve the content before we push it out to our users.
Question, just curious, is there going to be a checklist to help assess all of that?
Yes.
Thank
We
you.
will get to that.
Private information is one of
Kids are so smart. All right, so then we have our IT staff knowledge base. This is available only to IT. We all have access to view, edit, create articles in here. There's no approval process on this, so you guys can just start writing articles in there. They'll get published right away. No review necessary. I would encourage you to you know, maybe have one of your colleagues on your team take a look at it, who, you know, just to make sure that everything looks good. I mean, we all make weird errors when writing this documentation, or if you copy and paste, things might not be perfect. I think not that I want to encourage like not having standards on the IT staff knowledge base, but from my perspective, it's really important that our IT help articles are polished, right? The information is absolutely correct, easy to follow, formatted in a way that's easy for our users to digest, and
Easy for us to adjust, not us being the.
yes, and also that they look kind of pretty, right? Because our end users are going to want that. For IT staff, I think some of those things are way less important, right? We're just trying to get a job done. We want to share the information. You don't have to take probably as much time and care writing IT staff knowledge articles as you do IT help. So that's why there's no review on them. Last one is our team knowledge bases. And all of these are set up now. So there's one for service desk, EA, infrastructure, and the PMO. So those are locked down to those individual teams. So this is where you're going to share knowledge within your team. These are things that maybe aren't useful, or even, you know, maybe they're more sensitive, so you don't want to share them with the whole IT department. So that's where you're going to keep those kinds of things.
But are we really gonna have that much that we don't make available to the entire IT team?
You know, that's a really good question. And it's something that I've struggled with at every organization I've done this for is, you know, how open do you be with your knowledge, right? I sort of have a philosophy of, when it comes to knowledge, like, let's not lock anything down unless it's truly sensitive, right? If there are things, I think probably from the infrastructure side, that's probably where we're going to see most of that really sensitive information, that maybe there's things we don't want to share outside of that team. But then again, I'm not super familiar with all of the things that we do here, so maybe that's not a true statement.
I kind of think about it like, I really don't need to see all of infrastructure's documentation all of the time, but sometimes I might need to look at a network topology or something like that.
Right.
So then I would have to ask for it to be shared, or I'd have to go. So I kind of thinking of it that way. Then the other.
Sorry, just your example there. I think, you know, a network topology diagram would be helpful for a lot of us.
Exactly.
So that's where the content that the infrastructure team publishes, they have to make that
Right.
final decision.
Maybe that goes into IT staff. I don't know why we would have to put it in two different places, but I can understand the sensitive pieces. And then the other part is if on the protected information or the sensitive information, to me, that's more treated like an exception to records management, and you deem that as an exception. Like, there's a few things I can think of the EA team doesn't want anybody else to see, but it's not necessarily completely restrictive to anybody else to see, because if we need to do our job, we need to get access to that information. So
Yeah.
I'm hesitant on it being completely locked down to each team, but I'm also a little hesitant to be wide open as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where most organizations fall, right? You're kind of standing or straddling this line of how much do we restrict versus how much do we open up? And really, it's kind of ends up being the comfort level of the organization, right? If we all feel really comfortable with sharing everything we know, and there's nothing that we consider to be super sensitive, then, you know, maybe these team knowledge bases, at some point we say, you know what, I'm just publishing everything in IT staff. Why do we have this knowledge base? And maybe they go away eventually. So
I think the one thing we all need to recognize is our journey to the cloud blurs the line between what's infrastructure and what's enterprise application. So I'd encourage you to have that lens as we think about this. We will be less bifurcated on those two topics than we ever have been, as we continue to shrink our data centers, our traditional infrastructure footprint, and do more and more in the cloud. So It's a lens that I encourage you all to consider.
Well, and it seems to make sense. My less and less technical mind that it's, instead of asking, why would the PM or why would anyone need this? As opposed to somebody shouldn't see this. Assume it's wide open and lock stuff down in that sentence. Lock the information in the team knowledge base only if it's restricted to the team. Everything else is wide open. Why would you ever need that? Doesn't matter. If it's not restricted, I should have access. Maybe I want to learn something.
Right.
Right.
The articles have article level permissions, or is it only at the group level?
We do have article level permissions, so
It's like everything's open to the IT department, and if there's specific articles we want to lock those down.
Yeah.
If the metadata is there, we can always filter and sort based on who the creator was. if we
Yeah.
need to. But I agree with you, Mark, thanks for that perspective, because as we look at cost management, it's it's the entire department. If Stacy's trying to figure out why something costs us, maybe she needs to look at structure or vice versa.
Paul, you might have had a comment. I said-
Yeah, I was thinking about your statement earlier, Mark. It's all about a digital mindset. It's data and technology. And the digital mindset doesn't have those barriers. And so I'm going through the book again, second time. So good. And I see the benefit of us having access to data. And then, but we're seeing also less and less as being sensitive. We have to be cautious about that as well. Be good stewards of what we know is paramount, but we just don't want to leak out, passwords and IP addresses and MAC addresses and those kinds of things. You have to just, have that sensitivity and awareness.
I'm on the same
It
page.
comes down to, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Digital mindset was what came up when you talked about.
And I think, but there's components, Paul, that you touched on that is related to knowledge that is, if access creates significant cyber risk, you gotta be really careful with that. Yeah. Back to the MAC address, IP addresses, those types of things.
Even our diagrams, how is our trusted network set up? We don't care about the public network. You can see that from the outside. It's inside the firewalls, how we have, because that's a Minecraft field for the guys that want to do some.
Same with our network segmentation, right? I mean, yeah, we should probably make sure we manage who has access to that. The more permissions you give to it, the person that gets their account compromised, if they have access, the hacker's like, home run. Now I'm in the guts of the system and I can have my way here.
Well, and I don't disagree with you at all, Paul. The way I was thinking about it is, one, it's minimum access to the information. I don't want access to information that's super sensitive that I don't need to get to. I just don't even want to go there. But the other is it's secrets, really, the IP addresses, the passwords and all of that. That's not necessarily something I would put in a knowledge base article. We shouldn't be having passwords in any of our OneNotes, for example. That's what KeyPass is for. That's what Key Vault is for. And Key Vault is even more protective of those sorts of things. So, sorry.
no, you're
No.
good.
Continue on.
No, you're fine. So we got quite a few more slides to get through. Oh, this has been great conversation.
Yes.
though, I think.
We're obviously bought into this and very.
Yeah, you guys are really engaged. I love it. All right, so article authoring. So high level strategy for authoring articles is probably, if I could stress anything, I would stress this first bullet point, length. One topic or concept per article. We don't want to get in a situation where knowledge articles are scrolling forever and ever and ever. Users just can't absorb the information that way. Typically, they have a question in their mind. How do I do X? And they want that question answered. quickly, efficiently as possible. They don't want to read through a whole 30-page user guide, right? And then the audience, right? That's going to be important because of where you're going to put the article, right? Is it appropriate to share with the whole business? Is it appropriate to share just with IT? And then some obvious ones like spelling and grammar. Some of us are more put more attention on that than others. So that's why it's good to have, even on the ones where you're not required to have an approval, it's nice to have another set of eyes on it real quick, just to make sure you didn't, make any silly mistakes. And then to Martin's point, there is an article review checklist that'll be up on the next slide. And eventually it'll be published in the knowledge base, go figure. But all of the knowledge managers have this checklist. It's what they're going to be using to decide whether they're going to approve an article or not. So it's a great place for you guys to start when you're writing articles. If you can go down that checklist and say, yep, then your article's probably going to get approved the first time. And then you can create articles in a few different ways. So you can create articles from the knowledge homepage. You can create them from a specific knowledge base. And then you can also create them from an incident. And I'll show you that in the demo later. And then templates, we have 2 templates right now that we're working with, the how-to and the problem workaround. So they're pretty self-explanatory, but how-to is going to be anything you're giving instructions on how to do a specific thing. And then problem workaround is if we have a known issue and we have a way to work around that known issue, that's where we're going to use the problem workaround. And then there is also, you'll see in the demo, there's a standard template, and that is really used for when we create knowledge from an incident. So my disclaimer here is just don't ever pick the standard template. It's not useful. It doesn't have the right fields that we need, and I'll show you in the demo kind of what that looks like. And then kind of a little tip is the ServiceNow editor can be a little bit challenging to work with sometimes. So as we're writing new content, for some people, it might be easier just to write the document in Word, and then you can copy and paste over into ServiceNow, and it'll most times look good.
The formatting you're talking about?
Yeah.
Much easier to format something in Word and paste it in than.
Amen.
Yeah. And Rachel's not here, but she would probably attest to this because when she was writing her article, she was having a really hard time with images. The tools they give you in the ServiceNow editor are just really primitive. So this is the knowledge article review checklist. That's what I was talking about before, that all the knowledge managers will be using to approve your articles. I won't go through this whole list. You guys can read it, but there's some big hitters here, like does the knowledge article cover only one topic? Is the audience appropriate? Is it in the right knowledge base? Things like that.
I don't see anything up there about sensitive or protected information. Maybe that's something to add. Does it contain sensitive information? We don't want to make it public to make sure it's in the right audience.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
The other part I think is important here too, Melissa, is the formatting guidelines. We don't want people to use your own formats. We want to have it all be the same, so it looks and reads the same across all articles.
Very good point. And the ServiceNow editor, we have it set so the font type and the font size is set to what we want it to be. If you're copying and pasting from Word, sometimes that can get messed up. So just kind of double check your article that you're the same, font type and size. And it's for that exact reason. We just want things to look uniform.
One issue that we've all encountered on Service Desk is if the font size gets changed accidentally, not set it back to 11.
Yes. That is a very good point.
Would we consider changing the default to 12?
We could.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah, maybe we should do that.
helpful. Yeah.
Just a comment, and I'm sure you probably already have this covered, but records management to mind, retention policies, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we should talk more about that.
Talk to him.
Yeah. Whoever's the right person, we should talk more about that.
Yeah.
Sure. Hopefully we're not really keeping too many things that would be considered a record in here, but
If you were gonna,
talk about
if we're gonna be creating them, we probably want to write metadata on day one,
yep, I agree.
Take a look at.
especially if it has sensitive information, because then it gets flagged in a different direction.
Yep.
Trying to remember my
We
training.
gotta make sure people doing public records requests can actually search in here to find things.
That's the other thing too.
All right, so quick overview of the knowledge article life cycle. All articles start in draft. And our knowledge base contributors create those drafts. That's all of us. Once you're ready for the article to get published, it'll go to a review state where the knowledge managers will review it and then approve or reject, hopefully not reject. And then the scheduled for publish. We're going to go ahead and just go with this. We're going to use the scheduled publish date. I believe it defaults to today's date. Whatever today is, it's going to default to that. We've been using it for this first set of articles because we don't want to go live with it until the 22nd. So all of the articles are set with a scheduled publish date for the 22nd right now. Going forward, once we have all this live, like theoretically, you would always just leave it as today's date. The only time you might want to change it is if it's like a new product that's launching or something like that, where we don't want the articles to be seen by the business until, 2 weeks from now, but we want to get them queued up. The advantage of doing that is instead of waiting till the last minute to create all your articles and then have to hurry up and publish them, which is the way we used to have to do it before ServiceNow added this. You can just put a future date in that scheduled publish date field, and you can go ahead and approve the article, have them ready to go, and on that date, they'll just automatically publish, and we don't have to touch it or do anything. And then once that scheduled publish date comes up, it'll automatically publish the article. And then the last one on this life cycle is retired. So we don't typically delete knowledge base articles, probably like many other things, almost everything, right? When we're done with that content for whatever reason, we're just going to retire it. And all of our knowledge bases have an instant retire workflow. So they'll just, as soon as you retire it, they're not visible to anyone anymore. Knowledge managers can still access. So if something gets retired by accident, that thing comes back, we can republish. All right, and that kind of rolls into the workflows. I've talked about this a little bit already. On the IT help knowledge base, we have it set so that we require 3 people to approve the article before it can be published, but only one person has to reject it for it to go back to a draft state. So if one person reviews your article and says, oh, there's something missing here, they can reject it. And you'll get comments from that person letting you know why they rejected it and how you can fix it. No approval process for retiring articles. And then there's also, we're going to go into versioning in a minute, but when we have what we call major and minor versions, and a minor version doesn't require approval to publish the change. And those are the category, scheduled publish date, short description, and the valid to fields. If you change any of those fields in an article, you can just automatically publish it. It won't go into a review state. And so versioning, like I said before, we've got major and minor versions. Minor versions are all articles in an unpublished state are considered a minor version. So for instance, when you create a new draft of an article, it'll start at version 0.01. When you submit it for review, it'll roll the revision to 0.02. Once it's published, it'll roll to version 1. So any whole number versions, those are major versions, and those are only published versions. All the minor point versions, those are reserved for unpublished articles.
What are the limitations for major and minor versions in ServiceNow?
What do you?
X number of minor versions in the system or X number of major versions in the system? Is there any limitations to that?
99.
So it's 2 digits.
I think so.
Yeah, I've never run up on a limit before.
It's probably something ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
5,000 minor and major versions, something ridiculous.
Yeah, something you'll probably never hit. Yeah. But if we do hit it, we'll deal with it.
If we do, we'll have a party.
There you go. All right, and then users that have read access, so like our end user business partners, they can only see published and outdated versions. And this is a little bit confusing. When a published article rolls to a new version, so if we go from version 1 to version 2, version 2 becomes the published version of the article, version 1 goes to an outdated state. And in the portal, I don't know if I'll actually be able to show this because I don't know that we have 2 versions of an article yet, but in the portal, there's a version number at the top left-hand corner, and it's a link, it's a hyperlink. So if a user clicks on that, they'll see all the major versions of that article. So if there's, if they're looking at the latest published version, which is version 5, they click on that, they're going to see version 1, 2, 3, and 4 as well. But it's always going to warn them if they're looking at an outdated version. So even though they can see it, that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't know that it's not the current version of the article.
And it gives a link to the current version.
Yes.
Can we hide, disable, or delete outdated versions?
You cannot delete them.
You can retire them.
You cannot retire them.
Could retire, but you'd have to create a brand new article. That's the only
Yes.
way to not keep it in the chain.
Yeah. There may be ways to hide that in the portal, but they're probably custom code and probably messy. So unless we have like a lot of issues with that, we probably won't investigate that too much, is my guess.
So is there a way that the system kind of in its workflow periodically makes the author go back and just check that it's still valid? So we don't, I know there's a retire date, but just kind of a proactive cycle that makes sure that they're fresh.
Yeah, so in ServiceNow on knowledge articles, there's a valid to field, and that's a date. So right now, and there's a default date, and it's set by knowledge base. So I think our how-to articles are set at 365 days, and the problem workaround are set to 90 days. We expect that problem workarounds will get retired quicker than a how-to, right? So that's why we set that at a lower threshold, because that valid to gives us the opportunity to proactively review articles. And we can set that to whatever we want. So if we want to review articles more often, we can. Or if we find like a year is, not enough time to go by, we can set it higher.
So that valid to date is a date that's set when you start an article, but you can manually change it.
Thank you. Yes.
So if you know a problem article, this is going to be around for a while because we're waiting on a new release, which isn't coming next year. You can extend that.
Yeah, I could see where we'd want to set it for systems we know are supposed to be decommissioned at a particular date as well.
Yep.
The other thing, Martin, in reference to that is Melissa will have a dashboard and we'll be actively monitoring and reviewing and working with folks to get stuff reviewed.
On that dashboard, do we get read numbers, right? The
Like
articles, right? We views.
talking about article views.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are right on the article. You'll be able to see those.
Critical, if they vote for usefulness,
Mhm.
you'll see information.
Yeah, so there's some feedback mechanisms. They can comment on articles. They can tell us if it was helpful or not.
Can they suggest edits or changes?
I mean, they could do that through comments.
Just curious, because maybe we missed something when we publish it, right? And then
Yeah.
someone actually goes to use it and it's like, oh, wait a minute.
And that the article feedback mechanisms, that is definitely going to be something that probably changes over time as we figure out, how we want to get feedback. And then there's a whole section in knowledge of how to manage those feedback records. We haven't really touched that at all yet, just trying to get this off the ground, but that'll be kind of an iteration that we go through later.
Mentions be a part of that, so if someone mentions,
That's a good question.
hey, Franklin, this article's terrible, I get a notification.
You will get a notification already if you're the author of the article.
Skin.
All right.
So I just want to say before Melissa says this, I just want to thank the team who put these articles together, because we've far exceeded what our initial go live goal was.
Yes. Super exciting to say that we currently have 27 articles ready for approval. Thank you so much to all the people who've been writing articles. Travis, you have written a ton. Ivana, Brian, you've got some in there. Mark Franklin, you've got a couple in there. And Rachel also wrote quite a few on the infrastructure side. And we still have at least a couple on the EA side that we'll have before our go live date of next Monday. So I expect we might hit probably closer to 30 by the time we go live. So that's incredible.
Who's doing, are we thinking about RIM in a couple of those? Yeah, we're doing so much training right now, right? That you train them and they forget.
Just got a few more.
Yeah.
But I think that's, I want to challenge the RIM team to think about public.
6-year label.
I don't know what they should be, what the scenarios, but
How do you move stuff to OneDrive or whatever, right?
All right. And then there's just a breakdown here of how many we've got per team. Obviously, the service desk is dominating right now, and they probably always will because they deal with more issues than the rest of us do. All right, so next things we're going to work on, we're going to continue migrating our existing content from all these other sources, SharePoint, OneNote notebooks, notes you have in Word, wherever your content is. We're going to keep pushing to migrate that to knowledge base articles as much as we can. And then I also, this will come in time, but just want to put the thought in there that when you're resolving incidents, I think one of the best ways to generate new knowledge is when you're resolving an incident. Really think about, like, is there a knowledge article? And my suggestion is try to create knowledge in the moment when you're resolving the issue. If you wait, it might never get done because you forget about it, right? And we're not going to have a ton of time for a demo, but I will run through it as quick as I can. And I'll show you guys kind of how you can remind yourself to create a knowledge article. If it's something that's, you know, more involved, then I would say if it takes you 10 minutes or less to write the article, just do it right then. And then I think the other really important part of this is obviously if we want to hit our goals, seeing incidents and first call resolution increases, we really need our users to use the knowledge base. So I think it's really important to continue to direct our business partners to the knowledge base. If you know there's a knowledge base article to solve a problem, and we can come up with our own kind of strategy, but in the past, the strategy I've always used is someone comes to me the first time with a problem or, you know, how do I do this? I'll answer them and I'll direct them to the knowledge base and say, by the way, there's an article here that you could go back to if you forget this or whatever. The second time they come to me, I usually take a little more firm stance and say, hey, there's a knowledge base article. Can you go check that out first? And if that doesn't solve your problem or you still have questions, go ahead and submit a request or an incident. I think we all know it's important to continue to push those things with our users because they're going to go with the path of least resistance. So if picking up the phone or walking over to someone's desk takes less time than them searching the base, or they think it's going to take less time, that's what they're going to do. So just keeping that on the top of our heads.
I know there's a news article going on Monday about this.
Yeah.
Are there any other means of communication, like department meetings, management team of this? How else are we communicating and getting this out to staff? The port update's gonna be out. It's gonna be a news article coming out next Monday. But will there be mention at the management team meeting? I know that usually helps to communicate some things. Are we gonna eventually?
Steerco,
Yeah,
we're covering it with the Steerco. June.
I think we get a lot of, a
Hands.
little more than 50% of our that comes in each month comes in through the service portal. And as they submit those incidents, they'll start seeing those articles. Obviously start to type the issue because it will search and come back with stuff that's related. So I think it'll,
But you could do something on the portal to advertise IT help on the landing.
Yeah.
let me talk to Craig. Let me work with Craig and see. It's not,
It's not as easy,
yeah, it's not as easy as just throwing something up, but
It's already but we'll play with it and see what we can do.
I don't know when that's all hands is, but would there?
July 12th.
Okay, yep. It'd be beneficial to mention and sort of demo. Hey, I'm going to submit a service ticket. We now have this capability. You can click on these articles and just demo it at the all hands.
Yeah, you just want to get me in front of a bigger set of people?
Or volunteering.
There we go, Mark. Cover it.
It's bigger.
Can you click here and note that? Let's help.
No, I think that's a really good point, and maybe there are other ways we can, more broadly communicate it, so
Our readership on the articles is still.
kind of low.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we'll talk about maybe other ways that we could do that. Word of mouth is always the best way, though, right? So
Yeah.
even we can communicate and hang banners but if people are hearing it every time they submit an incident or a request, that's what's gonna stick in their brain.
I'll invite you to an upcoming champions meeting. Add
Yeah.
this as a-
Yeah.
That's a good topic.
Yeah, cool.
And then remember, we launched the portal. It took them a year to kind of adopt it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're getting kicked out of it.
We are, yeah. You guys were such good participants, I didn't even get to the demo. Maybe we'll have to do part 2,
Excellent.
Travis.
Yep, totally. Excellent, job, Melissa.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, that was good.
Sending